Hello everyone. I'm here to talk about English and its horrible spelling system. Um, Hopefully this video is going to be watchable because I have a flashlight over there for lighting, and I'm going to start doing editing things. So that's going to be pretty good. Um, I finally found a decent editor app, or editing app, so it allows me to actually put crap on the screen. So that should help. I mean, I've been looking for something like that for like a few weeks now, and I can't find anything, but I finally found one. So, anyway, bit off topic. So, I'm going to talk to you about the horrible English spelling system. Now, anyone that has spoken English for at least a day has known about its horrible spelling system. Now, first I'm going to talk about the history of why it's absolutely awful, but it's going to make a good bit of sense once you know what's going on because the history behind it is just like it's a mess. It's a complete crap. It's a crapshoot with orthography. It's absolutely awful. But yeah. So let's get started. So essentially, a few thousand years ago, there were these people living in Britain. They were tribals, and over in Germany, or what we would call Germany now, there were the Anglos, the Anglos, the Jutes, and the Saxons. Now, the Anglos, the Jutes, and the Saxons, they were collectively called the Anglo-Saxons, and they fled from Europe to Britain sometime a few thousand years ago. Like I think a thousand, uh, 1,500 years ago. And so what happened there is they intermixed with the tribals living there, and they made the proper Anglo-Saxon race. And they spoke Anglo-Saxon, which was a mix of the tribal languages mixed with the Germanic languages. And by then, it was just a normal Germanic language with a bit of British tribal influences. So it wasn't a horrible it wasn't a horrible thing yet. But then the Vikings came along. Um, The Vikings, no, wasn't the Vikings yet. Then the Romans came along and they added a whole bunch of new vocabulary. They brought the writing system with them, so we didn't use runes anymore. We used the Latin alphabet, which was which didn't fit our language at all because we had dental fricatives and we had no idea how to use them. So we just ended up using runes for those anyway, and just mixing them with the Latin alphabet. And then there's the whole thing of like them adding the vocabulary, like I mentioned a few minutes ago. My God, a few seconds ago, which essentially affected the entire language because there were a bunch of sound changes, a bunch of nasals mixed with stops, and it made these weird stop things like announcer. It mixed add with nounce, which essentially meant um, added speech, and it just changed to announcer instead of announcer, and something like that. And all that stuff, it just mixed together into a horrible, like, boiling pot of like crap that it set in the sun for way too long. And then the Vikings came along. The Vikings first had invaded France, and they completely got rid of their old culture for some reason. I never really got the Vikings. They started conquering places and then got their culture anyway. So why not just go there? But anyway, and then they invaded Britain for new land because they were, I don't know, they were just warmongers. Granted, they were decent warmongers, but still, that's not the point. Um, so essentially, they invaded Britain and added a bunch of other like French words, and that all like mixed together with the Latin and the Germanic, and it just made a whole mess. I can't explain how much of a mess it is. Like it changed from something sounding more like Old Norse to sounding something like French, like almost in a few decades. Like it was ridiculous. Um, and the vowels they got a complete freaking overhaul. You see, the French use the Y. I think they use the Y for the uh, the Y sound in the IPA, the U sound, and we don't have that sound in English, so we just use it for the E sound, and that completely messed everything up. Now, as everyone knows, most European languages, at least Western European languages, use the Y for the ya sound, the yod, you know. So we usually just keep it at that, but English decided to use it for vowels and consonants. Now, granted, the French used it for a vowel because of the fact that they didn't really have any meaningful distinction between Y's and other sounds. So they were fine with that. But we just made a complete mess out of the Y. Like, and then we used J for for the ja sound, and we changed it to an affricate ja instead of ja. Instead, and just keeping it like that. That really messed it up. That was absolutely horrible as it is. But but all the other vowels, they were even worse because oo stands for oo. It can stand for no, and It can stand for any myriad of sounds in between that. E stands for a bunch of different sounds, including rounded sounds. Rounded sounds. There are only two differences in rounded sounds to English, and that's and oo. Now, as you'll notice, the reason I call them rounded sounds, and the reason everyone else calls them rounded sounds, is because of the fact that the lips are rounded. And there are only two rounded sounds in English that have a meaningful distinction, and that's and oo, like I said. And so, essentially, what ends up happening is is we just don't have a meaningful distinction between rounded sounds. And so the rounded sounds that have a distinction in Germanic languages and stuff, it just doesn't happen here, and we keep the spelling, and it completely messes it up. Now, the Y, like I said, was completely messed up, but the Germanic people used the J for the Y sound, and so that messed it up even more, because a lot of Germanic speakers, they think, oh, okay, well, they'll have the same sort of spelling rules that we have, because they're a Germanic language, if they have any prior knowledge of linguistics. But no, they're going to come here and be completely freaking confused by our spelling system because it's absolute crap. Now on to digraphs. I've never been a fan of digraphs. I prefer diacritics to represent different linguistic information. I've never really been into digraphs. So you can imagine my terror when a lot of conlangs that I see use digraphs. But that's not the point here. The point here is the digraph system in English is absolute crap. It's horrible. Uh, I mean, okay, so first off, you have C, which can represent the ka or sa sound, but when it's put next to an H and an H is after it, it turns into the cha sound, the voiceless the voiceless affricate, and so that completely messes everything up, because you have a single letter to represent the voiced version of the affricate, and the voiceless version of the affricate being a digraph of C and H. It's a complete mess. And then we have S and H, which I can kind of understand why they would use H for most of the digraphs. It makes it go closer to the glottis. Yeah, sorry. It makes it go closer to the glottis. So it essentially just makes it go back in the throat. So it makes a lot of sense why they would use that for most of them. But, and this is the but we don't for a lot of them actually. For the tha and va sounds, we do. Okay, well, first off, we use them for two sounds. We use them for tha and va, just the th. But not only that, but you're moving it forward in your mouth. So essentially, like I said earlier, with it going closer to the where H is pronounced, it doesn't in the TH digraph, and I freaking hate it. It's awful. Um, what else? What else? Oh yeah. Okay, so in the Scottish dialects, there's the voiceless velar fricative, cha, and this is in a lot of Germanic languages as well. Usually with the digraph ch, and I'm completely fine with that. The digraph ch and x are fine things to use for the voiceless velar fricative. And in Scottish dialects, it's in normal words like loch, and things like that. Um, but in English, I absolutely hate how we treat other people's pronunciations when it's just spelled just slightly differently. Like we call lochs locks, locks of all things. It's because keep in mind that the ch doesn't only sound like a cha sound. It also sounds like a ka sound because we didn't have enough symbols for that already. God. Oh yeah, and also the voiceless lateral fricative in Welsh, sha. I pronounce it retroflex, but still, it's the same sound. Not many languages make a distinction. Um, that sound, sha, when English speakers first heard of it, they thought it was an F and it thought it was an F and L sound. So Floyd came into being. Floyd, Floyd. Because that makes sense. Sorry. So on top of that, we have that, and then in some loan words, we just don't make any sort of attempt. We just say Lloyd. So we got Floyd, Floyd, and Lloyd, all from one Welsh word, Lloyd. Oh yeah, and by the way, favorite IPA song. Shush. But anyway, I think the spelling system's garbage. Like, I mean, I don't really even need to say anything, honestly. It's kind of obvious. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe if you like, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.